Hello and welcome to another Cliff Reviews Art House. This time I'm reviewing the film Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler. This film does have a real epic quality to it. It's definitely ambitious. It blends genres. It has a great cast of characters. It has musical numbers and it has a big set-piece action sequence at the end. In the end, I don't think it completely works. It's almost like it tries to do too much. But there was more than enough here to keep me interested and involved. It does have flaws, but overall I enjoyed it. Sinners is set in 1930s Mississippi, and it's been called a Southern Gothic horror drama. It follows twin brothers Smoke and Stack as they return home, rich from a crime they've committed in Chicago. At one level, this is a vampire film. This is the one thing that I knew in advance. That said, it takes a while to become that. And it's definitely much more than a vampire film. In fact, I think it would be a mistake to call it a vampire film. The brothers are interesting characters, morally complex. Yes, they've sinned, but they're trying to do something good with the money by setting up a music and dancing club where they're originally from. The themes are substantial. They include generational trauma, memory, racial violence, and there's also a theme of the spiritual power of music. It actually felt to me as if the music is absolutely critical to the whole film. We hear a narrator tell us more than once of the legend of people making music that was so true that it can conjure up spirits from the past and the future, and that this can be both a good and an evil thing. I liked this idea, and for me it felt like the whole film kind of hung around this really strong concept. The music throughout was really good. You could say that the film does have elements of a musical, and there is one scene of music which I thought was extraordinary. It's the scene in the club where Sammy plays, and he's so good that he does conjure up the spirits of the past, present and future. There's a sort of montage, a fusion of all different types of black music, from the old to the new. It includes DJs and rappers, even though it's set in the 1930s. I thought this was a really powerful scene. For me, it did evoke something of Walter Hill's film Crossroads. I haven't seen that for years, and I think that Cinemas is probably a better film, but the kind of spiritual highs that can come from extraordinary musicianship is something that's common to both films. The big set piece ending also for me evoked the Alamo or Assault on Precinct 13, but again I think Sinners is attempting to do something more than these films. The film is quite long at 2¼ hours. I don't think it had to be this long. It did feel like some of the scenes were too drawn out at times. One of my biggest issues with the film is that it's not a great vampire film. It leans into the horror, but it's trying to be so many other things that it isn't a pure horror. I admire the ambition of this, but for me it didn't quite work. I think that the other aspects of the story are underdeveloped, so that in the end it is relying on the horror elements. As I said, the spiritual aspect of Sammy's supernatural music abilities, this was a really strong point for me. This is a weapon which isn't utilised in the film. I really felt that the final sequences should have incorporated this, and for me this lack made the film feel a bit incomplete. It's not that it doesn't give Sammy a full story, and there are post-credit scenes which do make Sammy's story complete, but I was still somehow left with a sense of lack. It felt like this film had a potential incredible ending. Going back to Walter Hill's film Crossroads, that climax scene where the devil organises the guitar duel at the crossroads has always stuck with me. Given the importance of music in this film, I was kind of hoping for something like this. To be fair, I do think that the ambition of this film, the multi-genre, multi-themed nature of it, allows for different viewers to have different reactions to it. I can imagine that other people wouldn't necessarily feel the same about the music as I did, but I still have the feeling that whatever aspect of the film stands out for you, the whole thing does fall short of being extraordinary. Don't get me wrong, it's still an entertaining film, but it could have been extraordinary, I think. Another issue that I have with this film is Michael B. Jordan playing both of the twin brothers. He was okay at this, he's a likeable actor, but I must say generally I don't find him amazing as an actor. I think the two parts were really good, they're good characters. I just felt something was lacking in his performance. Many of the supporting cast were amazing, I thought, but it's almost like he didn't quite do enough acting, if that makes sense. I think the problem was made worse by the fact that he played two parts in the film. It almost doubled the problem. By the end, we do see, I think, that the brothers have different characters, but I didn't find this apparent enough throughout the film. It always felt like there were two Michael B. Jordans on the screen rather than these two characters, Smoke and Stack. Compare this with the film The Krays. Tom Hardy's performance as the Kray twins was extraordinary. He really became Reggie and Ron, with very different personalities apparent. One more issue that I had is the ending. I am going to give a bit of a spoiler here, so if you haven't seen the film yet, consider switching off now. You've heard most of the review. Okay, I found the ending really unconvincing. It was interesting, the idea of seeing Sammy 60 years later. What I found unconvincing was that Stack was so reasonable and so honourable. He made an agreement to leave Sammy alone and he kept it. Yet he's supposed to be a vampire, and it just doesn't seem believable compared to what we've seen of the vampires prior to this. In the case of all the other people who became vampires, they didn't seem to have any of their previous honour or reason. I just found this a little bit silly. One final observation, not very important. The opening shot has a little bit of lens flare appear on it. What is it with directors and lens flare? It only appeared once, I think, and I don't think it served any purpose in the film. I don't think Coogler is alone in this. I noticed gratuitous lens flare in many films. Of course, it is reminding us that this is a film and that the light shines on the lens of the camera. Maybe I'm being unfair, but it feels like Coogler must have thought, oh, I must remember to put a bit of lens flare in the film. May as well do it at the start. Anyway, not an important point, as I say. In the end, Sinners is a bold, genre-bending film. It does reach for greatness, but it doesn't quite get there. Its ambition is admirable, its themes are rich, and at times it does seem to offer something quite original, particularly in its evocation of the mystical power of music. But its sprawling nature, uneven performances, and an underwhelming finale do hold it back from being a great film. That said, I appreciate that this is a film that dares to do something different. Coogler has crafted something memorable here, even if it's not entirely satisfying. I would recommend this film. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.